And I want to make sure that what we are doing here today is no way indicative of a big paintbrush on the cable industry. We have a cable association here in Louisiana that I've worked with, all of us have worked with very closely over the year. And there are cable companies throughout this state that have performed extremely well through this particular storm and other storms, and their service level has been extremely well. So to the cable industry out there in Louisiana, this is not a paintbrush against your industry. This meeting today is, somebody said to me earlier, I don't know if I've ever seen a joint committee meeting about one company out of an industry, but that's where the complaints are coming from. So Mr. Lee and Mr. Ayers, if y'all would come on back up to the table, we're going to start taking some questions here. Mr. Lee, I want to make a comment about your testimony, and I appreciate what you said. You talked about the great communication that Suddenlink has had with everybody on the local level. I have to respectfully disagree with that. I made a call to the Cable Association last week. Had I not made that call, I don't even know if we would be here today, because nobody in our local delegation back in Southwest Louisiana had any communications with Suddenlink directly. None. Zero. Your office in Lake Charles is still closed today. It's shuttered up. Nobody can even get into that office. I tried myself. I drove up, went up to the front door, locked, can't get in. So that level of communication, in my opinion, did not exist. It's improved a lot in the last few days, but it's because we are pushing hard. Not only members of Southwest delegation, but a lot of other people throughout this state that have been pushing hard for answers from Suddenlink. So I appreciate that level of communication that we're having now, but initially, sir, I'm sorry, there was none. Zero. The 1,000 people that you talk about, boots on the ground that are working, where are they located? Where are those 1,000 people?
They're across the state. They're different, teams in different locations still providing restoration efforts.
Right. Well, how many in Calcasieu Parish today?
Do I have that number?
It's about 380, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, 380.
Should be, we expect to have by Tuesday that number to 450, with others standing by to come after that.
Well, I appreciate that. Look, I don't know a whole lot about your business, but I've been through a lot of hurricanes. I've watched other industries operate. As I said earlier, Entergy came in with over 13,000 people. They've still got 9,000 people there. I'm not quite sure if you can do your job with 450 people. I don't see it personally. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But the commitment that we got from your CEO today was they were going to try to ramp up boots on the ground. And, I personally, where I live, I'd love to see 3,000 people. Somebody made a comment on a conference call the other day, they would be getting in each other's way. I have a hard time believing that. And so I'm imploring upon y'all today. We need some help. We need some people out there that are actually boots on the ground. Do I know those guys are working hard? You darn right. I know they're working hard. But you need to get them some help. And so anyway, those are two discrepancies, Mr. Lee, that I've found in your original testimony. We'll get back to some more things here, but we're going to start to have some questions. I think Representative McGee, is that your question? You're down there? Okay. Representative McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the stack of public comments that we've gotten about your company. In my 5 years, I've never seen anything like that. And we've probably only had 7 days for them to even get this to us. Usually we have much more of a time period to obtain these kind of things. I'm going to ask you, do you think they're positive comments?
I would say it's probably not often that consumers proactively post good news about their utilities at any level.
So you're going to agree that they're not positive?
Again, I would say that most people don't report good news to any agencies.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think when you are in an emergency situation and you help people and you communicate with them, they're very appreciative. Even government. I mean, I think government probably has a little bit hard time than y'all do in the public PR space. But in emergencies, when we're bringing water to people and we're doing our jobs, they seem to say really good things about us. And they're not saying good things about you. I can make the short version of this. You're not doing a good job. I mean, I don't know how else you can take it. And look, I mean, I think one of the things I think is concerning is this. I think everybody in Louisiana understands to a certain degree that you have logistical problems and logistical issues that you're working through. I don't think they are completely unreasonable in that. I think part of the problem is the customer service side is that you're not listening to them, you're not communicating to them, and you're basically not helping them at all. Do you want to address that part of it?
Well, I'm sorry, Representative, I think it's important to recognize one factor here, and that is that we have made efforts to improve in this area. I can tell you the company they've almost experienced a double whammy in a sense here. You just had 6 to 8 weeks ago Tropical Storm Isaias in the mid-Atlantic and northeastern regions of our country, which impacted hundreds of thousands of subscribers who lost their service. That combined with this leads to plenty of people an unbelievable number of people calling in to express their concerns with their service connectivity, their outages, in addition to just the run-of-the-mill throughout the other 21 states we serve, just issues, complaints, purchasing, whatever it might be that they come in to want to contact the call center for. So I can tell you we are looking at other platforms and we're investing in. I think the company has set aside millions of dollars in investments to go with platforms, whether it be an Apple type of platform to enable consumers to contact us that way. I know a younger generation, I wouldn't put myself quite in that because I still prefer to talk to a phone agent, but you'll find a lot of people like to do the chat rooms. They like to have their things answered by email, their inquiries by email. And whereas our elderly customers...
I think your customers would accept a carrier pigeon at this point.
I think, but yes, I can only tell you that we're very much aware of the need to continue to improve in this, and it's very much a focus of the company at this point.
Let me ask you this. Whenever there's a storm, and I live on the coast, thankfully I'm not one of your customers, but I live on the coast and in southeast Louisiana, and we deal with storms a lot. It's pretty much a way of business it's a way of life for us. We probably deal with more storms than almost anybody. And since I've been elected, every time there's a storm, I have a service rep from Entergy, everybody else contacting before the storm gets there to give me their information so that I can know who to contact after the storm if there was problems. Who with your company did that?
Representative, in this case, and I also want to add this in response to what the chairman had mentioned. We began on August the 21st and contacted, if you are a legislator in our footprint or a mayor in our footprint or any federal officials in our footprint, which is 3 members of Congress and, of course, the 2 U.S. senators, Public Service Commission staff for those 3 districts in which our footprint lies. On August the 21st, we sent out an initial email to every one of these individuals to the email address I'm sure that they probably care the most about, and that's the one they provide the public on their website. I'm sure those are very important addresses that you guys monitor closely to hear from your constituents. Assuming that was going to be the best way to get in contact with you, we sent emails from August the 21st. 3 days later, we responded with another set of emails, which was to provide safety pointers that you could pass along to your constituents. In addition, the following day we came with emails which would have explained emergency operation management system questions, as well as every one of those emails had the numbers of 3 Suddenlink contacts: phone, email, text us. Now,
you're going off on a tangent. I'm going to cut you off a little bit. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Who was the person as a governmental liaison? Back on. Who is the governmental contact person that is responsible for contacting legislators or local officials?
That was myself and Johnny Moyer, who's the Director of Government Affairs for this area. We're both contacted, and to this day still remain text. I want to point out one of your colleagues certainly took advantage of the initial email, Mr. Representative Chuck Owen, who has become a very frequent texter. He has communicated that information that we've given him to his constituents, and I think Mr. Owen would acknowledge that we have been using text, realizing that his service may be down at times, to communicate.
So other than the emails, though, did you contact anybody?
Absolutely. The emails, phone calls, text.
So you called all the legislators in your district?
No, sir, we did not call them, no.
Okay. Did they have your cell phone number or Johnny's cell phone number before the storm, or did they get that?
If they checked their emails, any of the 5 emails we would have sent out starting
Did they know you before this all happened?
No, sir, I don't believe they did.
Did they know Mr. What's his name, Johnny Mayers?
Moyer.
Moyer, I'm sorry.
Several of them were very active in the Louisiana Cable Television Association as members. That's our primary means of communication with legislators.
Okay, so somebody else is responsible. So, getting back to that, you didn't have anybody that was a familiar face. You said you cover 18 states, is that correct?
Yes. Now,
and then you said your service footprint is 21 states, is that correct?
That is correct.
So you cover all but 3 states. What is Mr. Moyer's territory?
Mr. Moyer focuses on Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas.
3 states.
The tri-states here, yes.
Does any state have their own governmental liaisons person?
No, sir, but what we do, we participate in every association. In the West, in our Western footprint, there's instances where we'll have consultants at the state level. There's instances where we will have law firms that we retain that have the relationships with legislators, and that we typically remain on top of things by working with them.
Do you want to be regulated by the PSC?
No, sir, I don't think that's. I personally don't ever see how more government regulation is the answer to a free market.
Who are your competitors in Southwest Louisiana?
In Southwest Louisiana, I would have to yield. Robbie, are you aware of that question? I mean, I know through the association you have obviously other active members like Charter and Cox. I'm not.
Because to me, it looks like this. You say you don't want to be regulated, which I understand. I'm not advocating for that. But you basically have 2 models in the world. Is when you're the only provider, you get regulated because you have a monopoly and there's no competition. I ask you who your competitors are, and you don't even tell me who they are. So I think part of the reason why you're losing the public service, the public relations battle, is because you're not doing a good job of it. And I think part of the reason why is because you don't have enough competition to really drive it where people feel like they have a choice. Who are your competitors? I mean, I'm kind of shocked that you don't know who your competitors are. I mean, I heard active in the association. That's not a competitor.
Again, Representative, I just indicated that Cox and Charter were also companies that.
You did, but you also said I need to talk to the guy next to me.
No, I was just making sure that there's not a smaller cable provider. I mean, again, Robbie is very familiar with Louisiana in that sense, and I was just indicating that there may be a smaller provider out there. Obviously, I don't know every provider in Louisiana.
I don't know of areas that we're actually overbuilt from another cable provider, but we have AT&T as a competitor. There are wireless services. It kind of depends on what service you're speaking of about a competitor. Video service, obviously, there are Dish and Direct. There are wireless data services that compete against us. There are other options out there. I don't know. I can't name market by market who those are specifically, but we do have competition across the footprint at different levels.
And let me back this up for a second. You say call center. Are you using the same normal call center that you do when there is no storm right now? Is that who's providing the response?
I believe that is correct. That we have call centers in Lubbock, Texas, Tyler, Texas, North Carolina, and in the Northeast that are answering and addressing consumer complaints during this time.
So Lubbock would be our closest call center to Louisiana?
No, sir. Tyler's far
Tyler.
far closer.
Okay.
East Texas.
So, is there any way for you to bring a call center into Louisiana in a mobile unit?
That is actually, as the chairman indicated, the CEO is going to be walking through downtown Lake Charles next week with him, I assume, and I think that would be a good discussion to have. I mean, certainly the company, we have an emergency response plan, and if there's ways we can augment what we've got there, I'm sure they'd be very interested in looking at that.
So the answer is no.
I'm sorry, the question was, would we be willing?
No, I said, yeah, but I mean,
And
you haven't done it.
And I did
And
not.
by the time you do that, I mean, hopefully you'll fix this problems. I mean,
But again, Representative, I did not say we would not be willing, and that was your question.
there's no plans at this time.
Well, of course there's plans. I mean, one thing about an emergency response plan, if it's anything, there's variables.
Let me cut it to the quick. Is there a plan right now to bring a mobile team into Louisiana to answer customer complaints?
I would imagine at some level that's being discussed.
But is it a plan right now?
Again, a lot of plans are being discussed at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could talk about plans to build $1 billion house. I don't have that kind of money. That's not really relevant. What I want to know is there a concrete plan to bring within the next few weeks, preferably next couple of days, a communication center to Louisiana on the ground?
I feel like that's very much in discussion.
I don't want what you feel like. I want to know, is there? There's a difference.
Well, sir, again, I can't tell you that there's not. I mean,
Then if you can't tell us, who can?
Again, we'll have senior leadership.
Are you not senior leadership? You cover 18 states as a governmental affairs association. If you're not senior leadership, where is he?
He's going to be here next week.
Why is he here now? Is there another storm pressing that keeps him from? Was there something more important going on right now?
Well, no, sir, but there is a more pressing thing. Not more pressing, certainly. That would be the wrong phrasing. But there is an issue with COVID where New Yorkers have to, if they travel down here, and the chairman's aware of this from the conversation this morning. If any of our New York crew come down here, they have to quarantine for 14 days upon returning to New York because Governor Cuomo has established Louisiana as one of those states that has a high level right now. If I could just continue real briefly, I'll point out that you got to also keep in mind these folks in New York have been severely impacted. They've lived the nightmare that has been COVID very much. So if that factors a little bit into their thinking on when can I travel to Louisiana or am I going to have to quarantine upon return?
So has the CEO not left New York in the last 6 months?
I'm not aware of Mr. Goei's travel schedule.
Has he left in the last 1 month?
I'll tell you the truth. Every time I've seen him, he's been on the laptop in his kitchen doing calls every day.
That's not what I asked. I asked, has the CEO traveled in the last month?
I'm not sure of that. It's entirely possible.
Did y'all talk before y'all came here today?
With the CEO?
Yes.
Yes, sir. There has been multiple discussions.
With you?
With me, with plenty of other senior.
When you say multiple discussions, was that this morning, yesterday, last week?
The last 3 weeks related to Louisiana.
Did you talk to him yesterday?
He was on calls yesterday. That's correct.
But was he talking to you yesterday? I'm not asking what his schedule was.
Again, Representative, I can tell you I have not spoken with him yesterday, no.
I asked you that question 10 minutes ago, and it took me 5 questions to get to whether you talked to him recently. When's the last time you talked to your CEO?
The last time I've talked to him was on a call earlier, probably earlier last week.
Last week. Mm-hmm. And was he aware you were coming here today?
He is very much aware, yes, sir.
Did y'all discuss what information you would have to tell us about your plans, your ideas, your future thoughts, hopes, dreams, aspirations, however you want me to phrase it, about how you're going to address the poor customer service in Louisiana?
I can't express enough just how much we have discussed, and as I told you earlier, we're investing in that very much.
I'm talking about the last time you had a conversation with your CEO. Did this conversation take place?
The last time I had a conversation with the CEO would have been to discuss our approach here.
I got an idea. Why don't you give everybody, the public, your CEO's email, since that's the way he works from his laptop when he talks to you, and that way I could send him, we can start forwarding all of this, since he can't come because he can't travel right now.
I certainly want to point out that the CEO has, believe me, it's not just a direct link from me to the CEO. I mean, we have, and we're a relatively flat organization, but what we have executive vice presidents who work in our government affairs operation. You have senior vice presidents who work in there. They communicate with Mr. Goei far more than I do, obviously, and I obviously communicate with them. You probably wouldn't believe the number of times a day.
So you're telling me they sent me the 4th level person in the company to address what is the biggest crisis probably in the company right now?
Well, we've sent you Robbie.Lee here next to me, who is probably the most familiar with this region.
I didn't say familiar. I'm talking about level of authority to actually get something done.
And again, that's why I'm excited that he's coming here next
I'm
week.
not excited. Yes, thank you. He knew about this today. He's going to have to quarantine in New York for 2 weeks, whether he comes next week or today. You'll accept that, right?
I do, that he's going to have to quarantine? I mean,
So
that
the
would
whole
be
quarantine
law.
thing was a discussion about nothing. It was a way of you trying to gender sympathy for why he's not here, why he's been absent from Louisiana, because he's coming, and when he goes back to New York, he's still going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Doesn't change anything, right? I mean, I'm finding your answers, I'll be honest with you. I can understand why your customers are upset with you, because I'm trying to get basic information from you, like what color's the sky, and I'm getting, well, you know, if you look at the rays, it's actually not blue, and blah, 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 blah. That's the kind of responses we're getting from you. If you're giving it to us now, and you're frustrating me, I can only imagine what your customers must feel like when they are sweaty, hot, tired, chafed, thirsty, kids not in school. And they got to deal with somebody who will not give them a straight answer on any question they ask. I'm telling you right now, in the history of this legislature that I've been a part of, never have I seen anything like that in 7 days.
That's 7 days worth of complaints, sir?
That's from when we noticed that we had public comment. 4 days. Sorry.
4 days, okay.
I've never. And look, we have some controversial stuff that people get really upset about in Louisiana.
Have those been passed on to Suddenlink to be addressed?
This is their public comment to us about how terrible of a job you're doing. It's a book.
If you'll let us know if you will provide us with copies of that, we'll be glad to reach out to those customers. I mean, that's what we have.
The story is that they've tried to talk to you. That's what the story is, and they're not getting anywhere. I think you should give us your CEO's email address, and then we can forward all of these to him, since he won't come, or he might have to quarantine, or there's something else, and he can talk about all these future plans that may have. Actually, it's not even all of them. I have a couple of them that fell. All these future plans that are in the discussion. Here's some more of them. Here's some more of them. Here's some more of them. And he could maybe start emailing people back.
He, to my understanding, has been. You could not pay closer attention to this as he has. I mean, we've had a whole team. Our days have consisted of 7:30 in the morning to at least 10 at night for the last 21 days.
I have no doubt that the people on the ground are as working as hard as they possibly can to do their jobs. There's nobody who for a second thinks otherwise. What we think, though, is that the corporate people at the top are doing a really bad job. And I'll be telling you something else. A common complaint I've heard is that they didn't think you did a good job with customer service before the storm. And that's probably why they're so upset, because they're used to dealing with crappy customer service that's only been worsened by the storm.
I will. Again, we're investing in the resources and making the customer care experience significantly better, and I think.
But how? You've not provided this committee in the 30 minutes I've taken too long to provide one thing other than it's part of a ephemeral discussion that's happening at the top of the corporate ladder that you, as the senior 18-state governmental affairs person, has no idea, but it feels very certain that it is happening.
Well, again, Representative, I did mention the various platforms from Apple and the chat rooms and the preferred methods of communications for a number of our customers. The purposes of that is to get the number of people who call in for standard calls to our customer service team, or to call in on complaints from other states. Hopefully those can be addressed in other platforms, a quicker do-it-yourself type of customer service experience. We're hopeful now, but hopefully we won't always have two natural disasters we're recovering from at once, Isaias and Laura, but it's certainly going to take the number of people who are using it right now. We think this is going to take them into other options, and it'll free up more agents.
I'm only going to entertain this because you keep bringing it up like it means something. This other storm, which one was that one?
I'm sorry, Isaias.
Where's that one affecting your customer base?
That's that is our tri-states region in New York. And again, I don't cover those states, but I'm trying to give you a rough estimate of the numbers. I believe you're talking 2 to 3 million subscribers in the tri-states region there.
What region is that? So I'm asking.
Tri-states, that's New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
So there's a storm in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut that had the same sort of impact as Laura.
It's a very densely populated area. Yes, sir.
It had the same impact. Is what you're telling me.
Well, no,
That those-
as I indicated, it's a tropical storm. It's not a Category 4 hurricane by any stretch.
Okay. So what resources have you provided to the tri-state area?
If it's okay, I'd like you to discuss that with Mr. Goei or our Vice President for Operations on Monday, Mike Alexander, who will be coming down.
We're having the committee meeting here today,
Well, I
and they
understand.
sent you to answer these questions.
I just don't have that information of what we've provided.
What information do you have today that makes people on this committee feel better about the response that's going to happen other than somebody's coming next week?
Well, as we've said and Robbie said in the statement, we're increasing that number. You're going to see from 350 right now to 380 right now in Calcasieu Parish. You're going to have 450 and more. We have crews standing by in any number of states north of Louisiana here that we're going to send in. I realize people want to see the more people there on the ground here, and we do too. Our employees and contractors who are doing this could certainly stand the relief, but we have plans to get them here. They're going to be coming in, and I know that that's what the chairman and Mr. Goei discussed earlier today.
Well, I'm going to stop asking questions because I do not want to monopolize more time than I already have. I will leave you with it. I don't think you were very informative. I don't think you've shown any kind of real concern for what is an obvious problem. And I am very disappointed, to be honest with you, that we did not get more information, that you didn't come here with more ability and authority to talk about things other than to let this committee know that it's coming at a later date. And I think that's very disappointing, and I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative McGee. And Mr. Ayers, we're going to provide you by email this list of responses that have come in. I have to agree with Representative McGee. In all my years, 21 years of being in the legislature, I've never seen anything like this. This is not just formal complaints against your company. These are responses. We allowed the publicly to participate in this meeting by email because of COVID. Y'all are very lucky that this 116 people didn't show up at this Capitol today. We'd be here till tomorrow morning. But we're going to provide you with this. I know that the Public Service Commission, I'm going to call Mr. Brandon Fry up here in just a few minutes and a little later, but they've gotten a record number of complaints also at the Public Service Commission, even though they don't regulate you. And I would want those numbers.
Chairman,
also.
I would add, we've actually, and we do get complaints from the Public Service Commission, and with Commissioner Francis and Commissioner Green and Commissioner Campbell, we've remained in contact with them throughout. In fact, we've had conversations from their, I apologize if I don't know the name of the title, but whoever it's not a chief of staff, but they call them something else. They're their top aide, for lack of a better way of putting it, and kept them posted. I mean, we get those complaints and we actively try to resolve those as quickly as possible.
Okay. Mr. Lee, I do owe you somewhat of an apology. I said that y'all had no communication. We were made aware of that email that was mentioned earlier. I think most of us from our delegation found that email in our junk box. I absolutely didn't have time to go through my junk mail looking for emails after the storm hit. But the point of the matter is, after the storm hit, not one link of communication from anybody from Suddenlink to our local officials. We were meeting on a daily basis. Police jury office in Calcasieu Parish. They had every opportunity to participate in those meetings, had every opportunity to communicate, no communication, and that's a fact. So I'm going to ask Representative Abraham, I think, has got some questions. Excuse me, Senator Abraham. I got him, my colleague from home.
It would seem like the only other member of the Lebanese caucus would know exactly what my title is, but I mean, I guess it's okay. Thank
My
you,
apology.
Mr. Chairman. I want to thank y'all for being here. Y'all just so happen to be the tip of the spear Okay, y'all are the tip of the spear, and that's just the way it is. I wish it was other people besides y'all, but that's what it is. I have another colleague that's said many, many times that words matter. Words do matter. So I want to clarify some of the words I believe that was said here and in meetings yesterday. It's quite obvious that the company has been in a reactive position instead of a proactive position. And I don't think in an emergency situation, you should be more proactive. And it's quite clear that y'all have not been proactive. Now, I understand it's your job to defend your company. That's what you're doing. You're giving statements to defend the integrity of your company. I get that. Our job, my job, I represent Calcasieu Parish. My job is to represent my people and to explain to them what is going on, explain to them that words do matter. So I want to go through some of the words that were spoken so we can kind of clarify it, because I don't want any person watching now or any of my constituents to believe otherwise, okay? For example, you said there was 1,000 workers in the area. Yesterday, a number of times we've asked how many workers in the area. You said 200 or 300. We asked, what were you going to get to? You said 500. So now I hear 1,000. But then I heard 1,000 in the state.
1,000 in the state. I said 1,000 in the state, sir.
Okay, so I want to make it clear that in where the real impacted area, which is Calcasieu Parish in a sense, how many people are there right now?
As I said earlier, 380 are in Calcasieu Parish, with intent by Tuesday to have 450, with additional on the way after that.
Okay. And as we've mentioned, others have mentioned, and I've mentioned it also, because you don't have a clear plan, to me, there should be 1,000, 1,500 people. And at one point, y'all said, well, we can't do that because they would be running over everyone. And then, of course, our response was there was 9,000 Entergy linemen in the area, and they're not running over everyone. So part of the plan that you should be bringing us is, what are you going to do about the number of workers that are going to come here and be boots on the ground? Okay?
Well, I know Robbie's going to follow up, but I'll tell you what we are going to do and what we are doing, and that's advocating for more, having seen the damage here for the last 3 weeks. And as I've indicated, that number is going to increase, and we're looking forward to it increasing.
No, and I understand that, and I also understand a lot of people are in business here on this platform. I'm in business for myself. I understand business principles and customers. I understand that there's 3 million people in the tri-state area, wherever that's at in the Northeast. I understand there might only be 250,000 people in Calcasieu Parish. But you know what? It doesn't make them any more important. The Northeast doesn't make them any more important just because there's a bunch of numbers than the 250,000 people that are in Calcasieu Parish. And that's what we're here to talk about, and I'm going to defend, and the people in this committee are going to defend those 250,000 people. They should have the same pro rata service applied to them as the millions in the Northeast. And so we don't care about that. We only care what's happening here. I think you made a comment that 75%, 70% had returned their service. Did y'all make a comment about that? 70%?
Yes, 70% of our customers have service has been restored.
Yeah, and so again, words matter, okay? I don't want to hear the 70% in the state. That makes you look good. I want to hear what's restored in Calcasieu Parish. My understanding is it's like 4% as of possibly yesterday. I don't know what it is now.
It's 11%, Senator. We've made a lot of
11%.
progress in the last 2 days.
So to me, again, as a business person, as someone who has the ability to plan a little bit, having 11% restored after 18 days is really a failing grade. I mean, it doesn't even get average to me. So that's, again, what we're dealing with. And we don't have a concrete written plan, exactly what you're going to do, and you still are not able to tell us when are the majority of the residents going to be restored? You still don't have an answer. The president of Entergy came down a few weeks ago when we didn't know when the power was going to be restored. And he made a comment then, 2 to 3 weeks. They're living by those projections. I still find it hard to believe that after 17 days, or how many days it's been, you still cannot give a prediction of when the majority of residents are going to have internet and businesses have internet. To me, that's a problem.
22 days, Mr. Senator Abraham.
Right,
22 days. Right.
We mentioned the other day in a meeting one of the, and I'm gonna have to call it an excuse. Why hasn't these lines been restored? And one of the reasons was that Entergy hadn't restored the power. Okay, I asked the question. That doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean by restore the power? Why do you need power to restore your lines? I think one of y'all said something about heads in or heads, I don't know what that terminology is, heads in or what?
Oh, head end?
Head in, that you had to have power to your head in. Now again, when the residents hear, oh, well, that's because there wasn't power, is that why they weren't being restored? Well, see, that's not really accurate either, because I asked, why can't you have generator power in that head in area that you have to have electrical power to monitor your system? And then you told me we can't get a generator. We can't find a generator. And I responded to that question. There's generators all over South Louisiana. You have 1 meg, 2 meg, hospitals are getting the generators. So again, there's no excuse why you couldn't have generator power at your head in or whatever to make sure that you can restore service. So I want the public to know that we're not going to accept excuses that we didn't have power, because if you would have planned right, you could have had generator power. That's part one. Part two is many of your lines did not have to have power. You could have been restoring those lines from pole to pole with more people, with 1,000, 1,500 people. So I just want to point out that we cannot have excuses that the general public believes is the situation, because they're going to ask me more questions. They're going to ask me the same questions that I'm asking you. So I have to give them the response. It's not about power. It's not 70% of the people have internet service. It's only 12% or whatever you said. So this is a critical situation, and you talk about not wanting to be regulated. This performance is forcing us to look at things in regulation. And I told this to y'all yesterday. I contacted a government relations person from the White House, and they called. I don't know who they call. I'll find out. I was supposed to, but I didn't today. And again, your excuse to them was the reason why you haven't improved service is because you had no electrical power. They bought that. That White House guy bought that, but I'm not buying it, and neither the residents. So I think that you're going to have to come with a little bit better plan to do what you have to do to restore internet service in this area for people to believe that you're on top of this, because right now they don't. And I said the other day that you're losing thousands and thousands of customers. I do understand that possibly you're not the decision makers, and you have to take, you're the point of the spear, you have to take the brunt of the action. There's nothing I can do about that. That's your company's decision. But answers need to be provided, because this is not going away. And hopefully in the next week or two, we're not going to have the same responses that we've had the last 6 or 7 days. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that brief overview as I see it, and I'll yield to other members who have questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Abraham. Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I ask any questions, I first want to say something to Mr. Lee. I'm sorry you're here today. I've been dealing with you since February of 2019. You've returned every phone call, you've returned every text, you've responded to every email, and you've been drugged down here today to be thrown to the wolves, and you've been the only face we've had in central Louisiana for Suddenlink, and you're not the problem. And I appreciate that you're being thrown to the wolves and that we've got people here that aren't in decision making. It tells me what Suddenlink thinks of Louisiana. This is a legislature. We asked you to come here. We're representative, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people. And maybe it's not your fault either that you were chosen to come down here. But I bet you couldn't answer questions of why you have so many FCC complaints. I bet you can't explain why people are saying that they're being sold and paying for services, speeds that your equipment can't even accommodate. I bet you can't answer that. You can't tell us what your plan is for restoring power in Rapides Parish, can you, sir? I'm talking to you, not Mr. Lee.
Again, you would need to talk to Mr. Lee about that because he's on the ground implementing that plan.
Okay. Is there a written plan? Is there a map? I know when CLECO went out, they spent 3 days assessing a much bigger area than just Rapides Parish. And they had a plan. And they called us in and said, this is what we're going to do. We have a priority list, but in addition to that, we have a map. We are going to restore here and here and here and here. And do you know we had power at 100% in Rapides Parish within about 10 days. So to blame, and Mr. Lee, I'm sorry, but I have to echo what the senator said, to blame any other utility for the absence of the ability to restore my people's cable is a poor excuse. I noticed yesterday that Suddenlink, or Altice, has offered $7.8 billion to acquire a company in Canada. So they got money. They got money. My people are still not able to go to school, a large number of them, because some of our schools aren't up, because they're not able to access it from their homes. I've got this morning a phone call from an elderly man crying on the phone. And this ain't made up. I'm telling you, this has a face on it when I talk about no ability to use the service. His wife's in the nursing home. The only way he can contact her is by telephone. They don't have cell service. He couldn't talk to his wife who has dementia. And he wants to know why his state representative can't do anything about it. I understand why your CEO may not have been here by Wi-Fi. I suspect he doesn't have any more confidence in the ability to deliver a cable service to him than we do. And I don't understand it because you know what else? It seems as though your prices, Suddenlink, are higher than other people. Yet the services are less. And you know what's even worse? Those same people we heard about a minute ago who are in the hot, that are sweating, whose kids can't go to school, who can't talk to their mother or wife in the nursing home. You know what they got in the mail twice in the last week? Would you like to know? Was it a letter from your CEO apologizing for the poor service? No, that wasn't it. You know what it was? It was asking if they wanted to sign up for more of the great services of Suddenlink for only an additional $15. I'm guessing you didn't get a lot of return mail on that. I want to know as we sit here right here, because I came from Alexandria. We have people that came from other parts because we were told Suddenlink was going to be here to answer our questions. Is there a strategic plan to get restoration not only to Calcasieu, which I'm very concerned about, but Rapides Parish, not at 80%, not at 85%, but at 100%? Is there a strategic plan that has a date of completion? Anybody that wants to answer?
There is a plan. There's not a date because it's impossible to project an exact date. If I could I have just a minute?
You answered my question. I'll let you come back to it a second because I got something you may want to include in this. Okay. Why are people having to wait? Or maybe you're the corporate guy. What is the average wait time for someone trying to make a call into the call center? Do you know that?
As a result of these two storms, it's a lot longer than it
How
should
long?
be. I'm not sure the average.
How about if somebody told me almost 2 hours?
As an average?
That's the ones that are calling me.
That's
If
an average.
one is too many. I don't know if it's an average. I asked you for the average.
I'm not sure what the average is. We can certainly track that down for you.
Why are they talking to people in a large number of times? You mentioned Lubbock and Texas and North Carolina, and I'm not in any way disparaging anyone, but I'm getting a large number of people calling me, telling me that the person on the other end of the service call is someone that speaks in a dialect, in a language that would indicate they're not in America. Do your call centers outside of the United States also?
I believe we do have one call center outside the United States.
My folks in Pineville who speak perfect English can't understand a lot of them. And it's very frustrating once they get on after 2 hours of waiting. And guess what they do then? They schedule appointments. Did you know that? Did you know that that's what happens?
That is correct.
Yeah. Well, you know, scheduling an appointment and keeping appointment apparently is two different things, because I've got mamas and daddies who are taking off work because of the assurance of the corporate Suddenlink, and nobody's showing up. Do you know what else? They're not calling and tell them they're not going to show up. And you know what happens when they call back after 2 hours to try to talk to someone? They're told they're not even in the system. Now, how is that a hurricane's fault? How's that the utility's fault? How's that anybody's fault but a company who can spend another $8 billion to acquire another company? Who else do we blame for that?
I would at least add, though, that certainly, sir, you would acknowledge that a hurricane would result in longer hold time.
Sir, let me tell you the honest truth. Me and Mr. Lee have been talking since February of 2019. He was nice enough to help get us some expansion and some upgrades in a portion of our area. But the same complaints I'm telling you right now, I could have had this same conversation with you on August the 20th.
Well, Mr. Representative, you and I have actually been talking since February of 19 about the three communities in which you reached out to us.
Yes, sir.
And I believe we paid special attention to expediting your progress in your area to get that done
Yes, sir.
in those needed areas.
They don't have Suddenlink.
Colin does not have Suddenlink?
Oh, Colleen does, yes, sir. They did before the hurricane.
DeVille doesn't have Suddenlink?
Yes, sir, they do. I thought you were referring to Poland and Echo, which y'all would not service.
Well, again, you brought to our attention, sir, these three communities that desperately need it. In fact, I remember
You get a check mark for that. Thank you so much. Now, would you hook them back up?
As quick as we can and as safely as we can. Yes, sir.
What about the problem people are having with paying their bills? Are you aware? I asked Mr. Lee, you know, it'd be a really nice thing if Suddenlink would give a credit to the people for the outages. And of course they moved it up, and they came back and said, yeah, we're going to do that. And we even sent out an email to our Suddenlink customers, and here's a link. Do you know what happens when you click on that link to Suddenlink?
I hope it offers you a chance.
No, sir, it doesn't offer you anything about a credit. You know what happens when you call the call center to ask about your credit? You know what they tell you? We don't know anything about it.
I suppose that we have found an instance where that has happened that's been brought to our attention.
Sir, I'm telling you, I'm not under oath. I didn't fill out a card like you did, but I'm telling you for a fact that I've got 100 emails. I'm getting 100 emails or more a day, many of which Mr. Lee is getting from me and that he's operating on. So I don't know about one or two. I'm giving you look at me and know that I'm telling you the truth. That there is widespread, the worldwide spread, that applies here. People are getting billed for services they're not getting the credit you provided after the fact. They're having situations where the crews are hooking up on 201 Main Street and 202 Main Street doesn't have service, so they got to do the route, and people not coming out when they said they're coming out. I understand this isn't, you got thrown to the wolves too, but shame on Suddenlink and Mr. G or whoever your CEO is for taking hard-earned money from good, hard-working people in my district, and before the hurricane, not giving them the service they were paying for, and B, not coming to the rescue and taking care of putting their poor service back into action. Do you know how many competitors you have in my district, sir?
I do not know.
Okay, you got one small section of AT&T. You know what one of the main requests from my people is? Could you please find a way to get someone else here? Clico got up in 10 days. Why Suddenlink can't do that in 22, and I don't know. And to misrepresent when you're going to help people, to represent services that they're paying for that I believe somewhere down the line we're going to be able to show you that your equipment can't even facilitate is negligence at least and fraud at worst. And I'm sorry that you don't have all the information. I'll be there. Unfortunately, it won't be televised. It won't be a committee. There won't be a card sign that says you swear to tell the truth when we meet in Lake Charles. That's what today was for, and I guess that may be why you were sent. But the people in District 27 in Central Louisiana are not pleased. They like Mr. Lee, if that's of any consequence. But they don't like Suddenlink, and it's not because they're not a caring group of people. They've been misled, misrepresented, and neglected. And it's a travesty to do this to young people, old people, and poor people, because that's who it's affecting the most.
Thank you, Representative Johnson. Representative Johnson, I got one better than yours. I got a constituent that after, I'm not sure how long they had to be on hold, finally got through to a service representative, admitted that she was outside of the United States, and said, we have no record of a hurricane anywhere. So please, Madam Customer, take pictures of your damage, send them to Suddenlink, and we will consider your request. Now that's a true story, ladies and gentlemen.
Senator, if I could just add, you and I, as we spoke about that yesterday, I do want you to know that we immediately looked into that. That is, we're trying to, if you could provide me offline here the consumer and the time of the call and the information, we'll gladly track it down, because all calls are recorded, and we certainly that is absolutely not the policy of this company, and I don't know why that happened. Let me just add, though, sir, that they took action across the company, talking to care agents today to correct that issue and just to reaffirm with all the care agents that is not the policy, and to indeed get them up to speed on efforts.
I appreciate that, but it actually happened. So,
well, I understand that if you say it happened, sir, I believe
it did.
I'm just saying the response to it.
It did. Representative Tarver, to a question.
Thank you, Senator. I wish I was, I don't wish I was a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer, so I'm probably not as great and eloquent as Mr. Johnson and Mr. McGee, representatives. So my questions are going to be a little simpler, and I just want to ask you a few things. To whom are you guys, do you feel like you're accountable?
Well, we're accountable to our consumers to provide the best internet possible, that they're getting the speeds that they're paying for.
Explain. I'm kind of new and trying to figure out how this stuff works. Like with I know there are some franchise agreements with the cities and the parishes and all. Can you explain to me a little bit about how that system works?
Basically, it is an agreement with the city to allow you to operate in the right of way in that city. I don't believe we have parish agreements, no, sir.
So you don't. You do have theoretically, at least, competitors. Like you mentioned, a couple of smaller ones or whatever.
Sure. Well, we do have competitors, and by the same token, none of these franchise agreements are exclusive agreements. I mean, we welcome competition. We feel we do provide.
Why do you think there would not be much competition? I mean, I say we, me being the citizens, we feel like that we don't have any choices. Why is that? How do you explain that?
The way I would explain it is, my dad is a deputy mayor at a small town in Mississippi, and he and I were talking about this maybe back in March or April, and he's not happy with it. They have a smaller provider there in this town in a little south of Oxford, Mississippi. What you have is it's expensive to do, for one thing, and you think about any business. If you come in and somebody's already there, you probably don't see necessarily a market for you, whereas you might go to an area that's totally unserved or certainly underserved and target that particular area.
Yeah, but I got small car dealers in my market that don't have as big a, and I'm kind of in the middle, and they got bigger ones. So I don't quite follow that.
A lot of people don't want to drive. You don't want everybody in town driving a Ford for like you mean. So it's a little not a great analogy there.
So why is it that we've heard this little bit of conversation about the regulation by the Public Service Commission and you're under regulation by the FCC?
That's correct.
So can you explain to me what's the reason, why are you not regulated by the PSC, and why do you not feel like you should be?
I am not. This would be a conversation with our, probably we can get back to you on, because I mean, for franchise agreements, as you get into that aspect, I can only tell you that in a lot of states we are not overseen by the PSC. For example, for complaints, that won't necessarily go to the PSC. It would, like in the state of Arkansas, that's a consumer protection division within the Attorney General's office. Your franchise is handled by the Secretary of State. It's each state is fairly different. Some states, for example, in the 18 in the Suddenlink footprint, 3 of those are local franchise states. Louisiana is a statewide franchise state.
Okay, I guess we got a lot to learn about this whole, because the internet has become something we didn't really have back in 2005 when we had Hurricane Katrina and Rita, at least not in this magnitude. But people are so dependent now on their ability to communicate. And you're a communications company, I would think you'd be hot on the communications delivery mechanism, and we are not getting that. And it's extremely important that we, businesses and individuals both, as well as, I'm going to get to our schools in a minute, but that's critical to us to be able to have reliable communications. And so that leads me kind of down to the next series of questions. And I think you alluded to it, Mr. Lee, in your conversation or your comments about the charges of being, could you visit the charges? Because here's the thing, people are being charged for nothing right now.
So,
and I'm just got to say, I don't feel like, I don't quite understand how you can charge someone for nothing, because that's what we're getting is nothing. And how can you, I'm sure you can do it legally or you wouldn't be doing it, but how can you fairly charge someone for nothing?
So in the areas that we've talked about that are so significantly impacted, first of all, we bill in advance, and we can't stop the billing from a system standpoint, from a systematic standpoint. But what we will do is on the next bill, we've told customers, don't worry about your bill. There's not going to be any late fees. There's not going to be any disconnects. And the next bill, we'll be issuing a credit, okay? So that's the way the credit will work, is we will proactively issue that credit, but we can't stop the billing cycle, so they're going to get a bill, and then they're going to get a
right.
The next month they're
So the next bill they're going to get a credit.
And
how much? How are they going to determine the credit? Because there's been some question about that we would get credits from the time we are restored to power. In other words, we had the hurricane on August the 26th. My lights went out at midnight on August the 26th, August the 27th till now. I've had no service, but if I understand the way it's been explained to me, the day the power comes on, that's when your responsibility to waive the charges begins then. Is that true, or am I misunderstanding that? How does that work?
So that the proactive credits are going to go back to the 27th.
Okay.
Okay. And there's already been 14,000 requests for credits processed before this happened. So the link does work. It's just that I'm not saying there's not times that it doesn't fail, right?
But at this point, if I understand what you're saying, we don't have to request the credit anymore. You're going to proactively give the credit from August the 27th forward.
In these areas where the service is still out. And
okay.
the ones, I mean, obviously some have already come back up, so they're in that credit process that's already happened.
Another thing that has come up, if someone changes from your phone service, just use me if I was to change and go to a different, like let's say AT&T, for example. If I said, okay, I don't want Altice or Suddenlink, whichever one it is, I don't want you guys anymore. I'm switching to AT&T. My understanding, and I don't know if it's AT&T, but I'm just using them as an example. My understanding is that my phone number, and I'm talking about landline, not cell phone, landline, my land number, you retain that landline number for some period of time, and then eventually it comes back to me. Does that, do you know what I'm talking about? Is that right, or do you even not know how that works?
I apologize. I might need to get you to ask the question again, but whenever any provider, I don't think our process is any different than any provider. Whenever you want to port your number over to another provider, there are certain forms that are required to be filled out, and there's just a process, but it's not that anybody is trying to hold a number from a customer. It's just fulfilling the process. So, yeah, we do port numbers to other providers.
But your answer is that it's typical that it takes a couple of months for that number to come.
No. It shouldn't take a couple of months now. It may take a few days.
Okay.
I don't know the exact time frame, but it shouldn't take a couple of months.
Okay.
Now, I do work a lot of, when things don't go well, I usually get to try to help fix it, okay? And sometimes what happens is, I don't know, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but somewhere in the process there's a breakdown where the company that owns that number, their account still has to be active. The number still has to be active in order to port it over to a new.
But you're just saying it should only be a matter of a few days.
Right.
It shouldn't be several months.
But if something happens and that disconnect went through on that other provider, then they have to reestablish that active number before it can be handed off.
So if it doesn't happen within a few days, that's probably because something went a little awry and you need to check into it. Okay,
correct.
good.
Right.
So that's fine. So again, a little more tough questions now. Those were the easy ones. Here's my biggest question, and some of this we've talked about a little bit and has been kind of bantered about, but and this is my biggest aggravation. And I understand that the CEO doesn't travel.
I wouldn't say he doesn't travel, sir. He just hasn't traveled as much during COVID in particular.
Okay, but here's the thing. Do you think the President of the United States is a pretty important thing? That guy made it down here, okay? And the only way you can understand and comprehend, the only way your bosses can know the magnitude of what we are dealing with is to see it. And if they haven't been here and seen it, they got no passion for it right now. And that's why you're not getting the help you need. That's why we're not getting 1,500 to 2,000 people boots on the ground, because they don't get it. And I'm very unhappy that there hasn't been a high-level executive set foot on these grounds. I don't care what the environment is. You could put him in a spacesuit or something, and he could come see it if he wanted to. If there's a will, there's a way. That's what my daddy used to tell me. And that's the way I run my business, and I think you guys need to do the same thing. You need to get serious about recovery here, because we're dealing with some serious problems in my area. And I'm sorry. I know you guys think you're trying, but there's another old saying I used to tell my guys at work: I don't want to hear that you're trying. I want to get the job done. Now let's get the job done. And the best way to start with that is to tell your boss, man, I need some help. When my guys come to me and say, I need help, guess what I do? I roll up my sleeves and I go to work with them, okay? And that's what my citizens expect from your company.
Oh, Representative, as you said yesterday, and thank you for attending the meeting in Calcasieu Parish, again, I would want you to know that we are working on that, and keep just one little bit of context in mind here. You can't obviously take Lake Charles and DeRidder out of the equation and Leesville, but if you did not have those three, let's just say outside of those, nearly 90% of connectivity has been restored throughout the state. If you didn't, factoring in those, didn't have to factor in those really hard hit areas.
Let me just use that as an example. Those are normal, disastrous times, okay? And that's my whole point. You got to be here to know what we're going through every day. It's different. It's different. Now, it's different from my friend Representative McCormick, who lives in Bossier Parish, and he had a Category 1 hurricane. That's pretty bad for him, okay? And I can deal with a Category 1 hurricane in South Louisiana. But the things that happen to us are very different than what your guys typically are experiencing. And that's what you need to understand. This is a different situation.
But, sir, I'd also add that in a Category 1 that hit Bossier, 98% connectivity is back. I mean,
I'm proud of that. That's the way it should be. But we have bigger problems. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. It's bigger than that. And if we'd had a Category 1 or even a Category 2 like Isaias hit, okay, probably we wouldn't be quite as mad at you guys right now. Because we're mad. I'm just telling you, in case you didn't know. We're kind of mad. But here's the thing. You even said it yourself. I wrote down when you said it. Now that you've seen the damage, more money and more people are coming. Well, guess what? If somebody a little higher up saw the damages, maybe more money and more resources would be coming to you. You know, when you see it for yourself, it gets personal attention.
There's no question that setting foot in a hurricane recovery zone does certainly widen your perspective. Again, though, I wouldn't want to leave the impression that they have not been engaged and understood the magnitude of this crisis down here.
So here's what I'd like to just kind of finish with. I have 3 goals that I would like to accomplish or to know that you. So what I'd like you to do is, can you tell me what your 3 hottest priorities, hottest things are for right now, for us, for
well,
what would be
again,
if
I
wrote my 3 down. I want to hear what your 3 hot shots are.
You know, if I could actually call up Chris, who's a vice president for Altice Technical Service, joining us today, primarily from the recovery standpoint, because I think that would be a good answer, and Robbie as well. But my government affairs guys' priorities may not quite be the same, so I think they'd give you a better.
I want to know what the company's thoughts are. So whoever can do that.
I mean, so critical infrastructure is always the first thing. We're always have to. Someone mentioned the head end. Without that, nothing works. Then the main fibers leaving our head end to feed emergency services, hospitals, cell sites, schools. There's a hierarchy of priorities that we always focused on first, and then the next thing is what repairs can we affect that will have the greatest impact? Who can we get up the most? Where can we get up the most customers first? And that's really the way we affect the restoration efforts. I apologize. I really don't know the rules. I have such a respect for this body because you are the people, okay? I get that. And I just don't know when it's okay to jump in and say something. I'm waiting on a question to respond to, so I just don't know the rules. And I know we're short on time, but if I could take just a minute and kind of share who I am and my thoughts. I've been in the industry for 40 years working in these same markets, okay? So I started from the ground up, installer, and I'm currently the regional vice president for the Mid-South region, which
I tell you what, hang on one second. Let me tell you what my 3 things are,
right,
and then I'll be through. And then you can, Senator Chairman can take it from there.
I'm not going to take a long time. I just want you
That's
to
okay. I just want you to know what I think our community expects. Number 1, and you've already addressed this, and I thank you and appreciate it. I think you've taken care of it. Stop charging us for no service. I think you've taken care of that.
That's right.
I understand that. Okay. The second thing is we have to get our schools connectivity restored. We got children that need to be in school, and they've been through enough. They've been out of it, and they need to be in it. And there is nothing. I don't believe I think every one of my colleagues from my area would agree with you. There's probably nothing more important in the city of Lake Charles and the parish of Calcasieu, and probably Cameron too, maybe even Beauregard. We have got to get our children in school, and we have got to do that immediately. It has to be done now. It cannot be down the road.
Can I just
Must
add,
do
sir,
that.
Representative-
That's okay.
real quick,
You can
30 seconds.
let me finish.
Okay.
And I want that done by September 28th. That's the date that our superintendent says he's going to be ready to go. And man, I just want it done by the 28th. I want him to have what he needs to put our kids in school, either at home with their parents or in the capacity of which he can in those schools that he can. Last thing, probably the most generic, but also the most prominent and the most important. I want a visible presence, an overwhelming show of force that you guys are committed. I went to a meeting with Senator, help me out, with General Wascom. Is that his name? You know who I'm talking about? No, it's Wascom.
Mr. Wascom, who is with
What?
the head of GOSEP.
He's the head of GOSEP. And he came in like 4 or 5 days into it, and we were starting to get a little bit disarray in our area. And he came in and he just soothed my mind and my heart in such a way that he had control and grasp of the situation. And I felt so much better after that first meeting. Y'all know the one I'm talking about. They had it under control. It was about to get out of control, but they had the grasp of it. And that's what I want your company to tell my people, that we got this. We got this. We're overwhelmingly present, and you guys can relax for a few days, and we're going to get the job done. That's what I want you to tell my people. Thank you. That's all. I'm through.
I did just want to add, sir, that you mentioned the September 28th school date.
Mr.
Following-
Ayers, if you could.
Following
if you
the
could-
chairman's comments,
If you could talk directly into the microphone, put it a little bit closer to you, if you would. The video system's having a hard time picking you up.
Immediately following
Thank you.
your call, Mr. Chairman, the CEO did say, and since I am under oath, I didn't say I visited with him, but he did, emailed, and he said that you mentioned the September 28th deadline, and Representative Davis did as well, and he put in caps, we need, in caps, to get this done by September the 28th. So, I have kids, plenty of us have kids. I understand the need to get this service back up and running, and I can only tell you we've been a long-time partner with the schools in our district, and we're going to make every effort possible. Actually, given that he said we need to get it done, we're going to get it done. I'm not going to say we'll make every effort. We're going to get it done. So,
Great. Representative Tarver, you through, sir? Thank you very much. Proud to serve with you in Calcasieu Parish. Gentlemen, let me share something with you. It was sent to me this afternoon, and this is the perception of the public and that what we have to answer to back home. This is a screenshot of your office in Lake Charles, your parking lot, which, by the way, is still not open to the public. It was taken at 3:03 p.m. yesterday afternoon. And my constituents stopped and counted. There were 43 Suddenlink trucks parked in y'all's parking lot in Lake Charles, Louisiana, yesterday afternoon at 3:03 p.m. Now, I'm sure there's a reason for that, but the perception of the public is they're not out on the street doing their job. I don't get off at 3:03 p.m. We're definitely not getting out of here at 3:03 p.m. this afternoon. So maybe you understand what we're dealing with back home, and that's just something I wanted to bring to your attention. We got some questions from Senator White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ayers, how you pronounce it? I'm sorry.
Ayers.
Ayers?
Like players.
Okay. And your cable company is Altice?
Yes, sir. Well, it's down here at Suddenlink within the Altice footprint.
How many customers you have in Louisiana?
Louisiana, we have 149,000.
149,000. Where's your home office?
The home office for Suddenlink would be Plano, Texas.
Plano?
And
Dallas?
Altice's U.S. headquarters is Long Island City, New York.
Okay. So, I've been here almost 20 years. Served with the chairman that long. I've been on commerce every year. Usually serve finance and commerce. FCC does regulate you. I understand that. But the state of Louisiana, we gave you the right to bundle. We gave you the right to right-of-ways. The locals gave you the right to right-of-ways. The state gives you a lot of rights. The state can give Lake Charles the right to have their own cable if they want to. They can give DeRidder the right to have cable if they want to. The city of Lafayette. We try not to do that because Ronnie and I are business guys. But I think I've just been sitting back listening, and them folks are very frustrated, and I understand it. I get frustrated with my cable company sometimes. I feel like they, I pay, I think, $380 a month for my bundle. I voted to give you the right to bundle. I think back that I probably may have been a bad vote, but we did that a long time ago. So I would tell, I know your CEO was not coming, but you may tell him the rights that the locals in the state has in this state. And if they want to keep that bundle, if they want to keep that book of business, you better pay them a little attention because they can change it. I had the same issue with a water company here in this parish. They have a monopoly. And in my district and in my home city, the water was brown. And I got tired of hearing about it. So I called them over to meet with the mayor. I said, look, and they made up 100 excuses. It went on and on and on. Finally, I pulled out the state laws. And I said, Mr. Water Company and Mr. Mayor, if you want this water company, you can expropriate it and run your own water company like other cities do. Well, guess what? In 3 weeks, there wasn't no more brown, dirty water. So my advice to you is they're very frustrated. The chairman is a very pro-business legislator. I would pay him a little attention and let your guys know if they want to keep this book of business, they better pay them a little attention and get moving. Okay? I know you can't fix it tomorrow, but I would pay them some attention and let them know and let all these legislators that are so upset. They're not upset at you. They're getting pounded. If I had that service $380 a month and I couldn't use it for months, and I was trying to get a kid through high school or elementary, I'd be upset too. So I'm just a word to the wise. Tell them the FCC may regulate it. They may not always regulate our cable. But we have options in this state. There's never just a complete monopoly. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator White. Senator Reese. Or is that you? No, excuse me, Representative Owen. Okay. I don't have any names up here. So
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Madam Chair, for holding this meeting. Thank you guys for coming. One of the skills I've not learned yet in the legislature is to push the button quick. I was late, so all of the things that a lot of the things I wanted to ask you have been asked. I appreciate what you've told me. I will tell you all, yes, Mr. Ayers pointed out that they have been in contact with me, and they have. They were in contact with me beforehand because, like my good friend Representative Johnson, my constituents had concerns about depth and breadth of service and a responsiveness and those things that we were hopefully wanting to get fixed over the long term. Maybe we can get back to that. But I want to thank you guys. I didn't want any of y'all to come. I did not, because I know what you're doing. I wanted other people to come. And since this is being videoed, I do hope that the CEO is paying attention. And it'll be online for him to go back and look at it. And so my comments are more addressed towards him than they are to you. You wanted to say something a moment ago. Do you want to take a second? And I'm going to give you a second of my time if there's something you wanted to pass back to us.
I just wanted to address some of the things about our recovery efforts. From day one, Altice has never withheld anything from this area. All they have said is, what do you need and how fast do you need it? I started telling you how long I've been in the company because I want you to know I've done a lot of storm restoration. Nothing like this, because nothing has ever happened like this. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just wanting to level set where we are, what our process is. In order to restore service, we first of all, we do have to wait until it is safe for our employees to go into an area. That's just a fact. And then when we say power, we're not just talking about the electrical energy. We're talking about the power infrastructure has to be restored, because that's what we attach to. Now, we were talking about priorities. Our first priority is to get stuff on, get customers on. And if we can come in and effect temporary repairs to do that, that's what we do. And in the process of effecting temporary repairs, a lot of stuff is laying on the ground. And nobody intentionally, well-meaning people, clearing debris, trying to restore other utilities, continually come behind us after we've temporarily restored service, and they cut us, just trying to do their job or trying to clear debris. So we see multiple service interruptions in the same areas. I know you're short on time. Go ahead.
And we all understand that.
Okay.
We do, and this is for the CEO and anyone in New York who cares to listen to us.
Right.
A great deal of this consternation would not be here if someone had not made a decision somewhere to ditch customer service. Okay, the story Mike Johnson just told you a moment ago about someone being on the line for 2 hours is absolutely true. I went through this myself just because my neighbors told me they were going through this. One day was 40 minutes. One day was, and this is not on you guys, but someone made a decision somewhere along the line to not have an active customer service situation. Okay, so yes, I know some people like to do things online, but when you don't have online, you can't do that. So this is something for them to consider. And this is not about television. This is about communication. It is about public safety. It is about things like people being at home, not being able to use Life Alert, not being able to have their healthcare system monitored at their local hospital. Okay, this has an effect that is so far-reaching. You guys know it, and I hope when Mr. Goei comes down there, he can see it. This is affecting communities. One of our mayors is here. She's driven 3 hours over here today from DeRidder, Louisiana, to talk to you all about the effect on their communities. Okay, this thing is far-reaching.
May I respond
You
to
may.
the customer
Yes, sir.
service?
Yes, sir.
So I do not speak with Mr. Goei, directly. I
sure.
feel like I probably could get access to him if I needed to, but I don't, have his number in my phone. I do speak directly and often with the COO, and I can tell you I am on regular calls, like on a weekly or bi-weekly cadence, where we understand that we need to make improvements, and we are investing in those improvements. I know that the improvements will take time, but I also know that we're not talking about, months and years. We are focused on improving the customer service and investing, like Brad said, in technology and in people and in resources to improve that. The same thing with some of the field service concerns that have been expressed today. Appointments being scheduled that shouldn't have been, and that communication gap with the customers. We are focused on those things, and I'm on calls where we go through plans on what needs to happen, what needs to take place to make these improvements, and we begin, walking through the details of those
Move
plans.
as quickly as you can. Let me give you a story. Louisiana is a colorful, interesting place. And during the early stages of COVID, when people were getting unemployed and people were having to apply for unemployment and those kind of things were going on, our Department of Child and Family Services and our workforce development people found out they didn't have enough people to man a call center because everyone was unemployed. They went out and hired contractors, and it was working within a couple of weeks. Okay, this is not a government project. Literally, it is, but it's not hard to do, to hire people to answer phones and at least talk to people. Okay, and I want to mention one more thing before I let go of the floor. There was a guy in my town. I wanted some friends to come. I wanted some of my constituents to come up because of COVID. A lot of them passed off. There's a gentleman in my town named Mike Anderson. He's a retired Army senior non-commissioned officer. As this thing was as power came back up, he started wondering where his phones were, where his internet was. And he called me. He said, Chuck, he said, look, he said, I live down this road, and I have 5 neighbors, all of them elderly, all of them shut-ins. And over the course of time, they had gotten rid of their clunky AT&T landline so they could have the clear digital signal from Suddenlink. Some of them's life alerts tied to it. Some of them's dialysis monitors tied to it. So Mike's going up and down these road every day. This is what we do in Louisiana. But he got hung up on 5 times by Suddenlink. I confirmed with him this today. 5 different times he was hung up on. He was treated belligerently. And that's one of many. Okay, and again, pass this back on. Okay, customer service is an art, but it is not impossible. And that's what we crave and what we need more than anything else is you guys understanding that our people want someone to talk to. Also, some of your senior people on the ground here so you guys can get back to work.
And we are focused on getting those things fixed. And I get the feeling that I might not get to speak again. So just real quick,
I'm with you.
I want to say, first of all, nobody threw me into this meeting. I really believe, and I believe our senior leadership believed, that since they were not able to travel, and there are some valid COVID concerns, since they weren't able to travel on the amount of notice they had and making other reservations, I am a cross-functional manager at a very high level in the company. And I am also in a position where I'm about as close to the customer as a vice president in the company. And I am very familiar with all of these markets. I started working in Calcasieu Parish in 2006. My management over that area at a regional level began in 2006. So the thing is, I believe that I am uniquely qualified to understand and speak to the needs of these communities and understand, and I have the knowledge of what our restoration activities consist of, how we prioritize, what resources are available to us, how we make those decisions, and also at a higher level, what plans that the company has as far as improving these very issues you're talking about. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can give you specific details, but I can assure you I'm a man of my word, and we are working on these issues that you're bringing up, and we are going to see change sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Owen. Representative Fontenot, I think you need to leave in a little while, so I'm going to go ahead and let you take your questions. Okay, sir? Are you on? All right. Excuse me. Now you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. And I guess I'll leave here with the most important thing is I'm blessed I don't have your service. But I want to share some things with you. In life, we must find at some point humility and be humbled. And these guys are upset. I can tell you I would have never, ever could have wrote a book and thought Representative Johnson would ever seen how upset he was. But this is what's appalled to me, besides that you have a business in South Louisiana and you have no plan. You have yet to apologize to the people of this committee, the state legislator, because you misled the numbers of people that were working. You failed to apologize that you misled the amount of people that were out of service. You failed to apologize you don't have a plan. You failed to apologize that you have foreign workers who don't speak English trying to speak to your customers. You have failed to apologize because an elderly man couldn't speak to his wife who has dementia. That, besides not having the ability to put your service back on, should speak volumes. Mr. Ayers, what does ATUS stand for? Do you know what that is, sir?
That's the acronym for the company, right?
Yeah, isn't that your ticker on NASDAQ?
That's correct.
You think your CEO is watching this?
He's been so involved at this point, I wouldn't doubt it a bit.
I hope that he takes action on your job when this is over. Since your testimony has started, your stock has fell 3%. And if all I can do for these gentlemen is to send a notice to my financial advisor to take every dollar out your company, that's what I would do. You should get these people's service back on right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Fontenot. Appreciate it. I think Representative Desatel, is that your? your button? Okay. Representative Desatel.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Just a couple of questions. One, how much of your plant in Louisiana is aerial?
I don't know that number. It's the majority of it is, yes.
So you would say 90%, 100, or 95%? Just
Did Chris leave? I just don't have. I think it's probably more like 80 maybe percent, but it is really a guess. I mean, the majority of our plant is aerial. It
Right.
is a lot. It is a lot more expensive to go underground, and really,
so I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I built a business doing this, so I understand the financial burdens. But the question is, how many school districts do you serve in Louisiana?
I'm sorry, I don't know that number off the top of my head.
I don't know, at 3, 4?
Well, I'm sure we serve more than that. I don't know how many school districts there are in Louisiana, but we serve a good number of school districts.
Okay. How many of those are aerial, served aerial? Do you know?
I would not know.
Well, I guess since you don't know those answers, I'll move on. But do you know that over 80% of the schools in Louisiana are serviced via fiber, buried fiber? Do you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Do you know that almost all the school districts along the coast are serviced with buried fiber underground?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Do you know why? Because in South Louisiana, we're susceptible to hurricanes. So when a hurricane comes, it knocks down the poles. And when it knocks down the poles, it breaks your aerial fiber. And it takes you a very long time to put it back. So when we're talking about critical infrastructure, and you just talked about it, you said hospitals, you said schools, you said, I don't know, you gave some other cell towers, banks.
Right.
Wouldn't you think that it would be prudent to maybe build out I know you're a private company, you can do whatever you want to do, but I think, we're starting to get more sophisticated in our state. Our customers are, and they're starting to understand the difference between buried and aerial, right? So what I'm saying is, I think you need to really think about when you go back, and I'm assuming that there's no plan to convert any of that aerial plant to an underground type service. Is there?
All the service will not go back the way it came down. There will be places where we go underground. There will be places where we change routes. It'll be evaluated on a case by case basis. But there's no overarching plan to completely take everything that was torn down and put it back underground.
Well, here's the problem I got. If we were talking about cable TV, if that's what we're talking about, which I'm going to say is a luxury. Okay, I would be, that's fine. You build it however you want. But when you start talking about critical infrastructure, you're talking about people using this as their lifelines, we need to really think about what that plant looks like. And I would like to see a plan, and I know you're a private company. I know we can't tell you how to reconstruct. But I think when we talked about bundling and we gave you the ability to provide phone services and do these lifelines, there's some, I think we, as the legislature, looked at it. I wasn't here at the time, but I'm sure they looked at it and said, hey, we want to do what's best for the customer. But they didn't know the background. They didn't understand what the technology was at the time. So I think we got to go back to the drawing board a little bit and say, if we're going to be providing lifeline services, we need to have some stability, especially in South Louisiana. I mean, it happens. So another question. When did Altice acquire Suddenlink?
2016.
2016. Before that, Suddenlink was a regional cable company. Was that correct?
Regional, would be 18 states. You're talking basically West Virginia all the way to California.
So since I started my company, which I don't have anymore, but we competed against Suddenlink a lot. And Suddenlink was a a formidable opponent, if you will. Had a lot of customers. You know why? They had great service. They really did. So when you talk about trying to improve your service, the service was actually pretty good. So what I'm trying to figure out is what happened between 2016 and 2021. How many employees got laid off between 2016 and 2021? Service type people, you know?
I don't know that information. Well, we can certainly provide that.
It's a good bit. I would assuming.
Do you mean strictly as in a mass layoff or
Just
voluntary retirements? Or?
Well, we're not replacing them. I mean, we're moving in a different direction. We're maybe downsizing our service department.
Yeah, I'll find that out for you, sir. I just don't know that.
So, when did Suddenlink? When did Altice decide to go to contract service people?
Actually, before Altice acquired Suddenlink, we were already working towards increasing the contractor to employee ratio across the footprint.
To reduce the
not really. We were trying to staff for the norm, okay, for the normal demand, and utilize contractors to really only address peak growth periods or increased periods of activity. So it was really more of trying to levelize the internal employee population to the baseline, and then offsetting the variables with contract labor.
Okay. I don't know if I totally agree with all that, but I'm going to read you an email that I got this morning from my legislative assistant. So we email every day. We started out, she would send me every day how many people called and complained about Suddenlink. My area actually did not get hit by the hurricane very bad at all. So we were talking about just this is not hurricane related. This is just Suddenlink. But every day, right, she sends me 15 people called, 10 people called, 9 people called. I mean, whatever it is. Well, she stopped doing that. I mean, because it's just too many calls. Good morning. A few more calls regarding Suddenlink. One was quite different. It was from a woman in Tioga, which is my good friend, Mr. Mike Johnson's area, and she probably called you too about this or emailed you, but who's been requesting service from Suddenlink. Someone returned her call and said they work for Suddenlink and asked her would she show gratitude if he got her service connected. She was confused by this and said, what does gratitude mean? He said, well, $50 when I show up. She reported it 2 times to Suddenlink, and no one's ever called her back. I got a problem with that. So I got a problem with, if you're going to move to contract employees, you got to be able to manage them. And I don't know what's going on in the management, and that's not my business. But I'm going to tell you, when we start getting, that's fraud. When we start getting those kind of complaints, it's serious. So, go ahead.
And believe me, any complaint like that, any contractor, doesn't even have to be contractor. Any employee complaint of that kind of behavior is dealt with swiftly and severely. And I would love to get that customer's information myself so we can follow up on that. But we do turn very quickly and act severely on.
Well, I think what's disturbing is that she called twice, left 2 messages to report the problem, and she's got to go to her, not even her state representative. She goes to her neighboring state representative to report the problem. That's something going on. There's something serious behind the scenes that needs to be
And I
dealt
agree.
with.
And if I can get her name and the phone number she called from, I can pull those calls and I can find out exactly what happened.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. I don't want to say it today over
Right?
this, but
No, of course not. But I'll give you my contact information.
So I guess that was really my gist of what I wanted to talk about is what the new plant was going to look like. It sounds like there's really no trying to change the plant or any of those discussions being talked about. But I'll tell you what my dad always told me, what the definition of insanity was. So when you do something over and over and over and expect a different result, that's the definition of insanity. And I think going in South Louisiana and hanging all this stuff back on the poles is not a very good business model. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Destel. Representative St. Blanc. Young? Which one is it? This one? Oh. There you go.
Got me?
Got you now.
Thank you, Chairman.
Fortunately, the Senate has a little bit better technology
Yes.
up on these boards up here. So.
Several questions I had today for y'all, and I wish you to talk to somebody and actually looked and in the archives of the Public Service Commission what happened to telecommunications after Hurricane Katrina, and then you really understood what you were going to go through today. And my district is not, it's on the coastal, but we don't have Suddenlink. But I've been looking at your map, and you have two that's very close to the coast. And have a couple of questions. I know how many customers you have in Louisiana. How many are affected by this hurricane?
How many customers in Louisiana were affected by the hurricane? 85%. I don't have the raw number.
Yeah, I believe at its peak, I read that 122,000 had been knocked offline.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think
122,000,
right.
And a lot of those
and your
came off
footprint's 150,000. So this is severe. This is severe.
no
Yes, sir.
question.
Okay. How long you been operating in Louisiana?
You may have to ask a legacy.
In
Suddenlink.
Louisiana, before I was ever associated with the state, there's been a number of different companies sell and buy systems, but I don't know the exact year.
So you can tell me that you've been a while and you're well aware of hurricanes,
Yes, sir.
and you have 120,000 customers that's in this area. So that right there, you didn't do your job. I know you're not regulated. Completely understand that. I'm not here to get on you. I'm not here to really. I'm here today that we got to have something done in the future. Which steps did your company take prior to the storm and ensure that adequate sources of backup power was used?
We have generators on. Someone mentioned our head ends. Those are really our master centers located throughout our network where our signals are accumulated and sent out over the various systems that we serve. We have generators in those locations.
What locations?
Well, each one of those, different markets have those locations. Lake Charles has a head end. Pineville has one.
Backup generators.
We have backup generators in those locations.
You have enough to take care of
Yes, sir.
those
Yes, sir. We have
things.
we have trailers that are rigged out with portable generators to deploy in areas where it's safe to put them to restore service when our power supplies are out. So we have those, and we have many. If we don't have enough, we get them shipped into us from other locations all over the country, or we can get.
How many was shipped in?
I don't have a number. Is Chris gone? I just
You
don't
come
have
to
a
a hearing and you don't know how many generators were
I
shipped
never
in.
dreamed I'd be asked how many generators were shipped in, but I can.
Well, I can ask
find-
any other telecommunications. I can ask any other utility company. They'll tell you exactly how many they have and how many are ready. I mean, I understand this is not your. I know you're not prepared, but this is what I want to tell you. You're going to have to be prepared.
And
Okay.
and yes, sir.
You're going to have to do a better job. Now, I know y'all too got to do a better job of communicating with y'all
with your CEOs and stuff, because you're in a situation now that something's going to be done. And I know what you're going through right now. It's been done before. And disasters have consequences, and it has consequences on companies like you. And you're not the first. But you're the first that's come in here that I've seen. It's all done through the Public Service Commission. But like Senator Bodie said, do you think that a law be passed requiring telecommunication providers to install the necessary backup electricity capability to continue to operate networks during disasters? No plan, right? I know you're not regulated, and I know you don't want to say it. But we can make a law through a hurricane and make you do it. And you don't want laws, because I understand you're a profit company and want to be good citizens. We want y'all to operate in Louisiana. But we have unique situations here. And you know what you're going through. Do your job. Do what other utility companies are doing. Prepare. And I know you don't have to, and you can go and get 1,000 lawyers and come and bring it before the post, and I know you'll win. But you're not going to win here if we start putting laws on you to have the necessary generators and the thing. But I can tell you today, as long as I'm on this Commerce Committee, you're going to have a plan, and you're going to bring it to us shortly. And you're going to tell them exactly what you're going through. And we're going to look at your plan. If we don't like your plan, we'll make laws. Because it's a disaster. We can do this. You have to be, how would I say it? You have to be more prudent in what you do when it comes to people's lives. We're a unique state. We have hurricanes. This right here has become more than we ever dreamed of. Telecommunications. I can't even begin to tell you what the Public Service Commission and stuff, what they have. And you're not regulated, but I can tell you, you would have go look at the archives and see what you would go through. Just go look at that archives after Katrina and see what they went through and what you've gone through. Is nothing compared to what they did. But what they did, they come up with plans. They had to put money aside. Now, that's going to be the hardest thing for y'all, to put to y'all CEOs and y'all bosses that, hey, we got to have a lot of money. And you got a big company. And was you acquired by a European company? I got a text. You don't have any European company that's acquired you, or
The founder our founder is from Europe, is Patrick Goei, but we are a total U.S. company.
Okay, total U.S. Okay. I'm sorry if I
Altice
misunderstood
USA.
that, but I'm just trying to get straight, because you got to do, he's got to be prudent too on what we go through, and just have a plan. There's all the plans. Just look at what the utility companies' plans are, and try to just have that plan. So you won't have any of these questions. And you're going to be there. Your CEO will be there. But if you're not required to be there, but we're telling you right now, you're all going to be required. And you're going to have a plan for us. Because you right now, y'all two looking at each other, we ain't never going to go through this again. We're going to go and we're going to get that plan. Because they do it. It's going to cost you money, you're going to have a little fight. But it has to be done. If you want to do business here, and we want to be good stewards together, man, look, I'm more capitalist than anybody. I've been in business all my life. I want you to make money. If you don't make money, then we don't have anything. And this legislature that doesn't have the knowledge of what goes in through telecommunication and everything, and we fight in broadband. And there's so many rules and regulations that I don't even begin to tell you that I can't understand, you know? And I just want y'all to go tell us what you went through today. Tell your CEOs, tell who you responsible to. And let them know that this is a different situation. And we want those people that pay monthly in these two little dots pay the same amount as others almost. And they want fair treatment. I can't tell you anything because I don't regulate you. But I can tell you we can make a law to have you have a plan. I may be talking out of line, but I'm telling you we can make a law. Thank you for coming to me today. And look, I understand what you're going through. I've seen it, you know, and I had a little experience and knowledge of the Public Service Commission and stuff. And I listened a lot, but I don't believe you had a clue what you were coming to. And it's not going to get easier. But if you'd have had a plan, and a plan that they have to go through, but boy, you're going to have trouble when you find out how much. But with a company like this, to spend what you're going to have to do on two little dots, that's y'all problem. And it's going to have to be done or go through the same thing. I know y'all two, you know, I can see y'all two great guys and stuff, you know, but have a plan. And if I'm going to talk to the committee chairmen, Senator and Paul, and we're going to make them. We're going to have you come back with a plan. It may not be, it's going to be next year, but you're going to have a plan. So you don't have to ever go through this again. If you don't have a plan, then we'll make laws. Thank you for what you're doing. I know what you're going through, and it's not going to start. What happened. But what I'm telling you, I'm a person that's not going through what they're going through, and seen it because I've been through hurricanes, 15 of them in my lifetime, in one store, and knowing what I know. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a plan. It's going to make it easy on y'all if you have a plan. And I know we can't regulate, can't tell you that. It's up to you to go to your company, because they're going to have to spend a little money and have some, they're going to have everything would have been in plan. Everything would have went right down the line. So.
Well, Senator, I'm sorry.
No, not yet. No, never.
I apologize.
I'm limited time. Senator. No.
Let me just say, I mean, there is an emergency response plan to storms.
How much money y'all put aside? How much is in your storm, sir? How much is in your storm?
I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure.
Honestly, and I'm not.
Don't. If you know, I understand. I understand what you got. You know, I don't want to put you in a position to say because you don't know. You're not required to have one. Nobody's required. You required to have the generators and all that? You don't have to. Are you regulated? So you're going to give me a number when? Because you know right now you can't afford what's happening.
Sorry, I don't know. We can't afford what's no. Absolutely, it's a heck of a cost.
Right, but just think if you had a backup like the rest of them, like the rest of the utility companies and stuff, and it falls right back in there.
But again,
and you could sit here and say, yes, we got this, we got generate, we got it here, we got backup power, we got instead of 400, we got 1,000, because you had the money, you got that, you know, you have a plan where they stage, where they coming in. Why they not at that 3 o'clock? Why they not over there? You don't think any other utility company is going to let them see that? They stage somewhere else. They don't want you to see that. That's how green you are about it. And I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I just want it to happen next time. And that's your problem.
Mr. St. Blanc, we have plans for staging. We have plans for going in after and before a storm. I mean, it's to indicate that we have no plan for a hurricane that comes through is just not accurate, sir. I mean, we have a plan. It's
Have any one of y'all seen the plan?
Representative Sablaw, let me tell you something. We have a plan.
We
Okay?
have a plan.
We're gonna have a plan. So,
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm just. I know what you're going through, and thank you for coming. And it happens. And we want to be a good steward. We want y'all here in Louisiana.
and we very much want to be here. You know,
Right.
make no mistake, this is one of our largest
I
markets.
tell you what, it's not going to happen to you again.
Okay.
You'll have what I'm talking about. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate it. Senator Reese.
Mr. Chairman, and Madam Chairman, thank you for giving me just a few moments. And we have some citizens that want to speak here today. Some may be rather brief. And I'm not going to really ask you a lot of questions because we had a conversation yesterday in Calcasieu Parish, Brad and Johnny. What was our recommendation to you in Calcasieu Parish at our meeting yesterday about today's meeting?
Well, that it was going to be very difficult, first of all. But you mean that you had rather had Altice executives here?
My recommendation was to have some key decision makers from Altice here to answer the questions of this panel and this community. And I think one of the reasons this has carried on longer and that it's been a struggle is because we don't have those people. I have nothing against anybody at this table. I don't really have anything against anybody in the company. Mr. Lee, you have done an excellent job with the resources you've been given to try to provide good service to the legislators that you've spoken to. I believe that you are passionate about your job and you're passionate about the people that work under you and you're passionate about returning good service to your customers. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think that your company has provided you inadequate resources to provide a service to these citizens. One of the things I pointed out yesterday is that many citizens across my rural area pay more for their service to Suddenlink than they pay for their power company. But let me tell you something about my district and power companies. I'm serviced by SWEPCO, Cleco, Beauregard Electric, and Entergy. Immediately after this storm, when the winds died down below 30 miles an hour, they had thousands of workers on the ground from the top of my district to the bottom of my district. And 22 days in, they have very few customers left in my district that don't have power restored. And I think part of the problem is that you report that you have 90% of your customers back online. And if that's what key decision makers in your company are hearing, they probably feel like that's a pretty good looking plan and a pretty good looking response in Louisiana. But you have 89% still without service in the impacted storm area. And that's not good performance. And it's not what these citizens deserve. I can tell you my personal experience real quickly, and I need to let the mic go so we can have some of our citizens speak. There was not good service in continuing maintenance of your equipment prior to the storm. And I'll just tell you this: there's a 3-mile route that I drive on a state highway on my way home. For about 10 years, there have been 4 big pine trees laying on a piece of fiber. On poles that only your fiber rests on, and it's always kind of an ongoing joke, when's the next storm going to finally take this down? Well, this was the one that did it. Finally took it down. You could see through the wood holding up those posts because it was so rotten at the bottom. I mean, there was no pre-existing line maintenance in that area, limited pre-existing line maintenance in that area that has contributed, I believe, to this problem over time. Prior to the storm, we were having issues because despite having the franchise agreements across our region, you had made corporate decisions to close a customer service center in Leesville, close one in DeRidder, close one in Sulphur, further limiting our citizens' capacity and ability to go reach somebody when they had a problem. And that's been, I think, one of the most frustrating things. What I wished I had done at the beginning of this, and I'd rather not be a comedian about it, but what I wished I had done is given my account number to Johnny, given Johnny the 1-800 number that my citizens have to call, set a table up over here and a timer, and let's just see how long it took him to turn in the fact that I still don't have the service at my own house or at my own business. And that's the same kind of problem that all of our citizens are experiencing. And Mr. Chairman, I don't think we would have been here long enough for Johnny to resolve that on the telephone in this committee hearing today. So I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because the people that I have to answer to and represent the interest of in this body are very frustrated as well. They want to get their lives back together. And they saw these utility companies come in here and swarm the problem and fix the problem and return the power to their communities, but they can't get their kids to class virtually. They can't get their businesses back online. We had a 5-minute window today that we had some decent Suddenlink coverage, and my secretary called and said, hey, now would be the time to come try to run payroll. And by the time we kind of got started, it went down again. So we had a tech in there trying to switch us to AT&T so we could try to get payroll checks out without having to do it manually again. We have a problem, and it existed prior to this storm. And Mr. Lee, I believe that you wholeheartedly are the right man on the job, and I believe if your company resources you properly that you'll be able to respond and get it repaired. But I think it's been inadequate to date. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would just yield back my time and look forward to the testimony from our citizens.
Thank you. We are getting close. Representative Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I usually, I'm a guest today. But I will say you use the term swift and severe. So I will be swift and severe. As many people know, I generally am around this place. But my question is simply, so your CEO couldn't make time to come here, correct? So I guess my question is, have you served the people of Louisiana to the best of your ability? And that's a yes or no question, and I would expect the latter of the answer. But go ahead and I'll give you a shot.
Yes, absolutely, as have our crews on the ground here.
Were you prepared? I mean, I've listened to the testimony. I was upstairs, I came downstairs, simply because I don't think you're serving the people of Louisiana the way they deserve to be served. Have you been in Lake Charles? Have you served lunches? Have you worked with the people? Have you cut down trees? Has your company worked out and outreach? Have you? No, you have not. Now, that's about as swift and severe as I can be. You know what? You failed the people of Louisiana, and 128,000 people relied on y'all, and you did not do your job. So I'm going to tell you, going forward, I don't know why Louisiana wants to do business with you. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Representative Bishop. Representative Tarver, you're the last one on the board. Oh, Representative McCormick, okay.
I've got about 3 statements to make and just a couple of questions. Just to make sure I clarify this message to y'all. The representatives that I've served with today that have spoke passionately, I've never heard them do this before. So this is something serious and serious to them that you need to take note of. The next thing is this. Your customer service sucks. I mean, you need to take your hat in your hand and say, we apologize, we got to do better. I mean, there's really no excuse there. And the third thing is the leadership not being down here. There's no excuse for that. When you accept the job to be a leader, you put yourself at risk. That's not y'all. Like I said, I'm not looking for a comment. There's no excuse for leadership not being down here addressing this. I'm not in this area, so I'm not having the problems that the other representatives. But Representative Distel, I've been a small business owner my whole life. You not having underground in a hurricane area is not running your lines underground in a hurricane area is I understand there may be some costs there. He was talking about having your important infrastructure connected underground. I mean, do y'all have any idea about like per mile what it takes to go overhead compared to underground?
We actually discussed that yesterday. Robbie has good numbers on that, and just a better background.
I actually don't know.
Oh, was that Chris?
Chris.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Chris was smart.
We can get you. We can get you the difference in the cost between average cost of an aerial plant mile and an underground plant mile. We can get you that cost.
Okay, and that'd be great. Another thing is, I know electrical companies, they send in a lot of people. I know they're a monopoly. I'm not interested in expanding monopolies myself. They have the ability to put 100% of that cost back onto their customers. We know that. They can do it over a long length of time. What are y'all's methods of getting your costs back that you spend? Do y'all have any insurance on your infrastructure? How does that work?
I don't know the answer to that.
It's a very substantial figure. I've heard estimated as high as $50 million, but I'm not sure how the plan to recoup it is. No, sir.
Okay, I got you. All right, I guess, I'm not going to take up any more time, but being a business owner that deals in this, when Representative Distel talks about in the air, what he means is from pole to pole to pole, right? I mean, that's what he's talking about. And I understand the fact if you got thousands of poles on the ground and you're going from pole to pole to pole, you've got to wait till that infrastructure is in place. I understand that. But on the other hand, his point to the underground, especially to the critical infrastructure, is something important that I think you should look at from a business standpoint. I am probably the most liberty-minded. I'm not going to say I'm most anything. I'm very liberty-minded. I believe in the private sector, and I'm willing to sign on to what these guys we have to sign on to do what we have to do to regulate you to make sure this critical infrastructure is in place next time. So, and I believe you will have a plan. I believe you will go forward with a good plan, and we look forward to working with you. Though I'd rather not have that law or legislation run, but on the other hand, it's something that you have to address if we're not going to have that. Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you, Representative McCormick. Okay. Our board is actually clear, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Fry, could you come up just real quickly? And I don't really have any questions for you other than just one question. How many complaints? If one of y'all would let him sit at the table.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Brandon Fry, I'm Executive Secretary with the Public Service Commission, for those of y'all, but I think I know everybody here. With a little background, we don't regulate internet or cable service, although as you heard from Commissioner Francis, if we're given that opportunity, I think we would accept it. We do regulate some legacy phone service, and because of that, people call us when a provider provides multiple services believing we're the proper entity. So we get, and Commissioner Scrametta, Commissioner Francis can tell you this, we get more complaints in their district offices regarding internet service or cable service than we do on electricity, water, wastewater, anything we do regulate. All that's kept in a database. And in anticipation, we had some questions Wednesday at our commission meeting for Suddenlink. I did a query of our database because I had heard some information that was provided to you, Senator Johns and Senator Abraham, about issues with the utility company, being an electric company, causing delays. So I wanted to look at other providers in the area. And there are a number of legacy phone providers, CenturyLink, Cameron Telephone, Elizabeth, as well as AT&T that serve these same areas. So I wanted to see how many complaints we got on those. And I added all those complaints together, and the complaints we got on Suddenlink since the storm were more than double than all those other providers combined. So I also wanted to look at the beginning of the year to just how to put that in perspective. And I'm not going to say who this other provider is because some of that's competitive and sensitive, but another cable provider who provides similar services in the state who's much larger. Over the year period, Suddenlink's complaints that we received were double than the largest cable provider.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.